Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Corporation Township of Minden Hills Regular Council for Thursday, May 8th, 2025. We have two delegations this morning. First is an update from Aqua, and the second will be discussing community wayfinding with the County of Haliburton and a representative from Plural. The closed session has been moved up and will be held following item 12.5 on the agenda. Following the closed portion of the meeting, we will return for the finance and administration reports along with the bylaws. Madam Clerk, please proceed with a roll call to confirm council attendance.
Councillor Sisson?
Present.
Councillor Saini?
Present.
Councillor McKelvey?
Present.
Councillor Johannesson?
Present.
Councillor Ingram?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Shell?
Present.
Mayor Carter?
Present. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Minden Hills is located on Treaty 20 Michisagi territory and in the traditional territory of the Michisagi and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which are Curve Lake, Rama, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Beausoleil, and Georgina Island First Nations. We acknowledge the shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original Indigenous inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. I call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. Madam Clerk, please read the resolution for the approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Sisson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shell. Be it resolved that the May 8th, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be approved as circulated.
All those in favor? That is carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we move directly to delegations. Ms. Baker and Mr. Manning, please join us. Introduce yourselves and start when you're ready.
Usually pretty loud, but okay. Once again, my name is Natalie Baker, Business Development Manager with the Ontario Clean Water Agency. And today we also have Jeremy Manning, your Senior Operations Manager for your facilities. Next slide, please. So today I'm going to begin with an overview of the regulations and reporting background in Ontario and what the reporting requirements are for the township's water facilities. And then we will go over the annual reports that include both Section 11 and Schedule 22 of Ontario Regulation 170. After that, we're going to have a quick review of the operations as well as some of the capital projects that we're working on in 2025. So we're going to have Jeremy go through a couple of those with us. Next slide. So before we dive into those annual reports, I do like to take a step back and provide some background information on the Ontario Acts and regulations here in Ontario. I know I do this every year, so I'm sure you have it all memorized. So make sure to keep it brief, but it is really important when we're starting to look at those annual reports. If you can believe it, 30 years ago, there was actually only 2 acts in place to regulate drinking water systems: the Ontario Water Resources Act and the Health Protection and Promotion Act. And this was up until the Walkerton outbreak happened in 2000. And as a direct result of that incident, the Safe Drinking Water Act was implemented in 2002. From that act, a few regulations were implemented in 2003. The Ontario Regulation 169, which outlines acceptable drinking water quality for various parameters like arsenic, fluoride, lead, and nitrates. Then Ontario Regulation 170, which outlines the drinking water system requirements in terms of treatment, chemical water sampling, operational tasks, continuous monitoring equipment, and compliance reporting. An extremely important factor for all drinking water systems is for certified operators to operate them, and certification criteria is outlined in Ontario Regulation 128. All of these were implemented in order to provide a multi-barrier approach in providing safe, clean drinking water to the public and your residents. Today, I have highlighted Ontario Regulation 170 in red because we are going to be looking at Section 11 and Schedule 22 of that regulation. Next slide. So moving on to the 2024 reporting requirements, there's actually three main reporting requirements outlined in Ontario Regulation 170. There's Schedule 16, which is the reporting of any adverse test results. There is Schedule 22, which is known as the summary reports, which summarize the quantity of raw and treated water produced by the facilities. And then Section 11, the annual report, which summarize the quality of the treated water in terms of turbidity, chlorine residuals, lead, organic and inorganic materials, and highlights any exceedances of Ontario Regulation 169. So today our focus is looking at the quantity of water and the quality of water in the facilities that you own. Every year, Aqua combines all of this information into one annual report for both facilities and provides it to the township as well as the MECP. Next slide, please. So both Minden and Lutterworth Pines drinking water systems under Ontario Regulation 170 of the Safe Drinking Water Act are to receive annual inspections by the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. The primary focus of the inspection is to confirm compliance with all those ministry regulations we just went through, as well as conformance with any ministry drinking related policies and guidelines during that inspection period. The ministry utilizes a comprehensive multi-barrier approach in the inspection of water systems, which focuses on source water, treatment, distribution, monitoring, and management best practices. I'm happy to report that both systems received 100% inspection rating during the 2024 inspection period. Over the last 8 years, Aqua, together with the township, has a total of 16 inspections by the MECP, 14 of which included 100% inspection rating, with only 2 falling below, but still receiving a rating over 96%. Next slide, please. So we're going to move on to the Schedule 22 summary reports. And the reporting requirements for Schedule 22 is to present the latest quantity data, as previously mentioned, and is broken down into both raw water and treated water categories. So for raw water, the average daily volume, in this case groundwater, over the year is compared to that permit to take water limit. The same comparison is then made for the maximum daily volume, which is the maximum amount of water taken in a single day during the year. For treated water, the average volume is compared to the municipal drinking water license, which outlines a rated capacity for each system. So for reference, Schedule 22 begins in the report under the title Flows, which I believe is on page 3 for each one of those reports. Next slide, please. So as you move through the reports, you'll see multiple graphs for raw water data, which include the total monthly flows, and you will also see multiple graphs related to the treated water. So this graph gives us a great visual on how the Minden drinking water system is performing for rated capacity. We have the average monthly flows along with the maximum monthly flows compared to that rated capacity. And just for reference, that rated capacity in that license is 1,953 cubic meters per day. So you can see the system is operating well within the rated capacity, with only slight increases to treated water requirements in the summer months or during any type of scheduled flushing or maintenance on the system. Next slide. So this graph, once again, is for the Minden drinking water system and shows the annual total flow comparison from 2014 all the way up to 2024. So you can see there has been some spikes throughout the years, but the total flow has remained fairly consistent. Next slide, please. So moving on to Lutterworth Pines, we have the average monthly volume along with that maximum monthly volume, once again compared to that municipal drinking water license. For reference, the rated capacity for Lutterworth Pines is 120 cubic meters today. And you can see the system is operating well within that rated capacity with slight increases during these summer months. Next slide. Yep, similar again to the one we looked at for Minden. The graph for Lutterworth shows the annual flow comparison from 2014 to 2024. The flows have been fairly consistent over the years, aside for some spikes we had in 2021 and 2022 from breaks in the system. But you can see over the last 2 years, we've had a big decrease in any type of breaks, bringing that usage down quite a bit. So moving on to the Section 11 reports, and they outline any exceedances of Ontario Regulation 169. So now we are moving from quantity of water and starting to look at the quality of water in both systems. Within this section of the report, you will see the term MAC used often, which is known as the maximum acceptable concentration for each parameter being tested. So not only do we have to report any sample that would come over the maximum acceptable concentration, we also have to list it if it has reached the halfway mark. Section 11 begins on page 6 and 7 under the title Regulatory Sample Results and outlines numerous tables for microbiological testing, operational testing, inorganic parameters, organic parameters, and any additional samples required by the ministry. So the Minden Water Treatment Facility does not require any additional sampling, but Lutterworth Pines does for uranium. The maximum acceptable concentration for uranium is 20 micrograms per liter, but your operations teams make sure to change out those uranium filters when we get to that half, or right before we get to that half MAC mark. I will not go through each line item in these tables as it will take us all day. But in summary, both Lutterworth Pines and Minden drinking water systems had no exceedances over the maximum acceptable concentrations listed for inorganic and organic parameters in 2024. And we actually didn't have any that came over that half MAC as well. One thing I did want to point out that you've probably noticed when reading through the reports are the levels for sodium for Lutterworth Pines. There's actually no MAC for sodium, but what's known as an aesthetic objective of 200. That's when you'd be able to taste sodium in the water, but we do have to report anything over 20. So physicians can report to anyone with a sodium restricted diet. So we did have one at 22. So it wouldn't affect the taste of the water, but it is reported so physicians can talk to anyone in the community that may be on a limited diet for sodium. So moving away from the annual reports and into operations and maintenance a little bit. Under the current contract between Aqua and the Township, we operate and maintain the Lutterworth Pines drinking water system, the Minden drinking water system, the Minden wastewater treatment facility, and associated distribution and collection systems. Just some of the typical operations include daily rounds, review of trending and residuals, monitoring of flows, chemicals used, and water quality, sampling and lab testing, routine maintenance and major maintenance, compliance management and regulatory reporting, which we saw proof of here today. I certainly won't list all of the things that Jeremy and his team do on a daily basis, but if you're ever looking for some light reading, I'm sure we could get you that contract to go through in more detail. Next slide, please. So every year, the township is provided with a 6-year major maintenance and capital recommendation list for the facilities that we operate on your behalf. The list is created using a combination of information such as operational knowledge and experience working in the facility, engineering design, and information from Aqua's computerized maintenance management system, such as the end of an asset lifecycle. The document contains a list of requests and equipment, replacement and repair, as well as an explanation as to why it's being recommended, for example, health and safety. We also provide a level of priority for the request as seen on the slide in the legend and the different colors for high, medium, low that have years associated with them. Once submitted, we do wait for the approval of the township budget for these projects and then work closely with your staff to have those completed. Next slide, please.
So as you can see, this is the 2025 capital projects that we're working on. So the first one is for the Minden wastewater treatment plant for the tertiary filter rehabilitation. The tender has been issued. And then we'll have companies coming to site in the next month to price out that work for presentation to the township. The next project we're working on is the Ord sewage pumping station piping rehabilitation. We're at the final stages of tender preparation, and that job's also expected to be tendered in the near future and then completed before the end of the year. We have one valve to replace in the distribution system currently, as well as one fire hydrant near the hospital. So we're looking at doing those two this year. We're currently getting quotes. The well inspections and cleaning are due this year for both Minden and Lutterworth. We're getting quotes for those and expect to have that work completed by the end of October. A couple of the more minor projects, the clarifier tank assessment, we're just having a cement engineer look at the tanks and just kind of give us a potential lifespan for those tanks and if there's any required repairs. And then as of this week, I think we just submitted the proposal for the rate study for Minden Hills. And then we expect that work to be done by the end of July.
Next slide. So I thought we'd finish the presentation with something a little bit lighter, like in community engagement, aside from the regulatory compliance we just went through. Many Aqua employees choose to support local events and initiatives in your communities. This photograph in the slide is of Aqua's water buggy, and we just wanted to remind you that this water buggy can be used for any of your community events. We often have it at the Canada Day event in Minden. I think it's been there for 5 years now in a row. And really the purpose is to make sure that we're focusing on individuals using your municipal water and not buying bottled water at these events. In addition to these local events, as an organization, Aqua has also developed a province-wide program known as One Water. It's an education program that puts operators in grade 8 classrooms in client communities to show the importance of clean and safe water and to actually teach the kids about their local water and wastewater facilities. So we have done this in Minden schools as well as in the past. And this year we were happy to attend the Children's Water Festival in Minden as well with a booth and some activities for the kids. So just a reminder that we'd have to be happy to be at any of those community events that you're hosting. Next slide. So that today concludes our presentation. If there's any questions at all, we would be happy to answer them now.
Any questions from council? Well, I'll start. Two things. One, just the project on at the wells and cleaning of the wells. What does that do to the water supply when you're doing that? And how long does it take?
So both wells have a backup well. So what we do is take one well offline. They pull the pump and then put a camera down, video inspect it and clean the well, and then reinstate the pump. And then we do samples. Once those samples come back, then the well can be put back in service. And then once the first well is done, then we move to the second well. That process takes about a week by the time we get it cleaned and get the samples out and back. So then we just alternate between the two wells, and same with Lutterworth. There's 2 wells, so we do the same process.
Okay. And the second thing is really just a comment that I make every year. You may report the high sodium to the medical officer of health, but to the best of my knowledge, it does not get out to the doctors.
I think it's more, I guess, just for the residents to know too as well that there is a sodium exceeding, so that they bring that information to their doctor.
Okay. Not sure anybody does, but so be it.
Well, through your worship, maybe we'll discuss with staff a way that it could go out in bills to notify.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Obviously a complete presentation that answered all the questions ahead of time. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
We have a motion.
Sweet. Moved by Counselor Sisson, seconded by Counselor McKelvey, that council receives delegation from Natalie Baker, Business Development Manager, and Jeremy Manning, Operations Manager, on behalf of Aqua regarding the 2024 regulatory reporting requirements as information, and that council directs staff to place the required documents on the Township of Minden Hills website in accordance to Ontario Regulation 170.03.
All those in favor? That is carried. Well, now finding our way. Mr. Ovell, you're joining us with some backup singers or something, I believe.
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. You definitely don't want me singing, so we'll have Sean Stemsky from Plural join us as well here. But prior to them doing their presentation, there just is a brief staff report there attached with this, just to give you some background on kind of how we've got to where we are today. It was a project that was initiated through the Dysart Cultural and Resources Committee. It was a request was made to County Council. We made some presentations to the townships about participation in the county leading that project, and subsequently took that on. What you'll see within the presentation as well, there's a list of community assets that have been identified through survey and meetings with municipal representatives, as well as just reviewing marketing material. If there's anything on there that's jumping out at you, either from why it's there or something that's not there, feel free to give us that input at today's meeting. Early on, we landed on the fact that we were just going to include community or municipally owned assets on the wayfinding signage. As part of the implementation plan, I'm working with the firm to create a process or policy around if a municipality was approached by a private sector enterprise about how that could look. That would be included in the final report. Lastly, we just have 3 sign design concepts there. If there's anything that jumps out, feel free to let us know. Our plan is to meet with all 4 member municipalities, gather feedback, in a perfect world, get a consensus on 1 sign design, and then present that to County Council for adoption when the strategy is presented, when it's completed. We'll be totally honest with you, we're looking at probably an implementation schedule of, kind of 2 to 5 years. So this isn't something that's going to happen tomorrow. Implementation of a wayfinding strategy is it's a costly undertaking. So we are viewing this as something that could be the county's portion of the MAT revenue would be utilized to help fund the implementation. Additionally, if we get the strategy in place, it frees us up to apply for both provincial and federal grants as well to hopefully offset some costs. And then lastly, just wanted to note as well, you're the first stop on our tour. We're at Highlands East next Tuesday, Algonquin Highlands the following Thursday, and then just organizing with Dysart. Tentatively, we're looking at probably early July to get this in front of council right before kind of a brief summer break that they usually take. So in a perfect world, we'll have it at least adopted or with kind of finalized comment by the end of July, and then bring it back if we need to early in the fall. And then the implementation would be part of kind of the business plan or the operational plan for the Municipal Services Corporation that would manage the MAT revenue for the county. If for whatever reason at some point, Minden wanted to expedite the implementation process, the door's always open to have that conversation with you. Within the final strategy, there'll be a detailed implementation plan. And what we haven't included in this is, because it gets into a lot of kind of really minutia, is the physical locations where signs are going to go. That'll be included in the final report. And that would be countywide as well, understanding that those locations are going to move by, a few feet or meters, or, in some instances, maybe half a kilometer. So with that, I'll hand it over to Plural for them to address the group, and then we'll be happy to field any questions that council may have when we finish.
Morning, everyone. Thank you for having us here. Hopefully you can hear me. I can speak louder if you need to. My name is Sean Kelly. I come from Plural. I'm being joined today with Tatiana Vukovic, who's our research and development person on this project. I'm the project lead. Anastasia Stemsky couldn't be with us today, but I'll take you through the slides today. We got about 20 of these, and then we can entertain some questions. So a quick project overview and update. Change slide, please. So pretty much what I just said, introductions, project overview, and then we're going to get into the 3 phases of the project that we're in. And Scott gave a great overview of where we're at. So that should be really helpful. Next slide. bit about us. If you haven't engaged with us yet, and we've had several avenues you could have engaged with us, we're actually a design planning firm, landscape architects and planners down in the center Wellington area. So if you know the Fergus Aurora area, that's where we reside. We've been doing this work for a number of years now, and we're very, very happy to be up in Haliburton Way and certainly dealing with all the component townships and municipalities for their wayfinding strategy. Next slide. So just a quick project overview. We started late fall 23, put together a foundations research backgrounder. Obviously, we're up in the area. We had some stakeholder engagement. We looked at destinations and destination review, which is always a tricky thing in municipalities. What a municipality or township would believe is a destination versus what other people think sometimes can be a little bit of a chit-chat requirement and what really makes a destination. We'd like to map all those. We also moved into sign design and location. That's our phase 2 piece of the project, where we're looking at concepts, looking at trying to get to a preferred concept. But again, everyone has a different aesthetic, and the information that needs to be on these things is a bit more of a cultivated kind of process and outcome. As Scott mentioned, we will have signed location plans in the final document, undetermined at this point. What's really important, however, are sign messaging charts, the type of information that go and are included in each and every sign that we do. Looking at implementation plan piece being done as a phase 3, moving into that now, where we look at sign design, intent drawings, the strategy management, how we work with that, any phasing and priorities, associated budgeting, and basically just the implementation and the maintenance of those once they're in. So, this is a strategy document. It will reinforce the sense of place, the identity, the interconnections. But, things that municipalities really like and citizens really like is kind of how do we improve our entrance, our orientation, identification within the county and certainly within the component municipalities and townships. Next slide, please. So let's move into phase 1. So in the background review, basically we'll have a pretty graphic document. We'll have a lot of pieces in there. And the things that we're looking at are things like, the MTO jurisdiction for signage, always very tricky in rural communities because the main thoroughfare typically is within a jurisdictional area. We look at certainly Ontario Disability Act, accessibility for Ontarians with disabilities. We'll need to look, or we did look at certainly the Haliburton County multi-year joint accessibility plan. Lots of accessibility of signage, as you can see there. But tourism and placemaking, brand guidelines for the county is very important to this. And then, how do you deal with a linear wayfinding signage system that's accessible? And then looking at official plans, certainly in this case, Algonquin Highlands official plan. Next slide. So we were up there. We looked at a lot of things. We take a lot of imagery. We have a great capture of what Minden Hills and certainly the Haliburton County area offers. We place this on a map, and we have all these assets at hand for us to help us through our planning and design work. Next slide. So a couple of things, every community will have gateways. We looked at the settlement areas, sure, and certainly what is prescribed or determined or outlined geopolitically, certainly with a settlement area. But getting a good understanding of the road network, whether they're rural or county roads or MTO provincial highways, and we try to bring in trail environments. So if you think of any way folks can get into your community on a roadway or a thoroughfare, we take that into mind when we're doing our plan. So certainly looking at this through a visit was really important to us. And you can see in this case, we do have 3 gateways, certainly on the town of Minden Hills area. Next slide, please. Stakeholder engagement. So we did interview. We had a list of representatives that we should interview for the county, which included members from each municipality and township. hopefully we have a good cross-section of government service levels and public interest on this as well. We crafted up a survey, an online survey, and that was really used to determine a preferred concept sign design. A couple of issues that were highlighted in Minden Hills specifically. One is that we have shared jurisdictions and boundaries, also, as you can see, of MTO and Carnarvon, and then the rail, trail, and hiking areas. A second issue or consideration, and boat launches always pop out. Anywhere we have water, you're going to have boat launches. Very, very important. Next slide. So, key destinations. You know, we highlighted following destinations, and these are things that largely are promoted by the Halliburton Highland website and marketing materials. Other popular destinations, whether they're recreational, civic, or public amenities, are typically noted to us through the municipality. But you can see Minden downtown, then we'll go Minden broader, but downtown civic destinations. Obviously, you know, the county administration building, the public library, the Minden branch, and health services that are in Minden. And we broke these out into categories, the next one being cultural or institutional destinations, Lions clubs, community centers, things that, you know, might have more like the cultural center and museum and Nature's Place. The Legion gets included in many of these. Recreational and natural heritage destinations, the things that people would like to go to, and there's 11 listed that would include docks and launches, fairgrounds and parks, and there's the arena and the village green and the river walk included there as well. When you get into Minden broader, the Royal Canadian Legion branch 363 tended to rise, and then historical architectural destinations. Horseshoe Lake Water Control Dam was something that was deemed as being a significant destination for consideration, but Minden Lake Boat Launch and the Panorama Park were really important recreational natural heritage destinations. The township itself, we had 4 areas: Harrington Park, Gold River Dam, the Doll Forest, and the Snowden Park. Next slide, please. When you get into other communities close by, Inglesby recreational natural heritage destination that was there was the Baseball Diamond. Irondale offered cultural and recreational. We have the community center, and then we have the Salerno Lake boat launch. And then we get into Lachlan, we have 2 recreational areas, being the community center there, as well as their Baseball Diamond. Next slide, please. We're moving into phase 2 of what we're collecting here. And this is where everyone says, this is the fun stuff. You start looking at things that are a little more graphic and putting it together and trying to come together with something that, you know, from a concept level for consideration. We do this to prompt input, to get input back from this. This had a really strong timber feel, in keeping with the types of things that we feel the place was evocative of, and playing on that. So you can see in this case, we have a couple of things, a few things. Gateway, the county gateway signage, moving into things that are more vehicular in nature. So a gateway is just really an identifier. You want to get into things that are actually directional as well, the ones that are a little more helpful, showing the direction of where things may be. And then you get into things that are a little more, a little smaller in scale, as you can see there. These are all scaled to one another, but they're urban. So they're, again, still worked at a vehicular level, but maybe a little more conducive if they're in a pedestrian area as well. So in this case, you'll still have the directional signage. One's a little more elaborate than this, the single pole, and also having a bit more of a kiosk and a mention of that. Next slide, please. We moved into another concept theme around natural forest, taking our inspiration from the green in the forest that we saw up there. Still has a bit of timber to it, but it's a little more in the panel backgrounds and reliefs, a little more evocative of forest, natural forest. Information is very similar on all the signs. It's just how they're portrayed graphically. So again, we move from gateway or county gateway to urban vehicular directional, and then to more local or vehicular directional kiosk opportunity on these as well. Next slide, please. The third concept is really my Halliburton Forest. It's almost bridging the two a bit, adds a little more color to it. But again, very similar, enough nuance on that. And again, we do these to try and get community members and elected officials to kind of respond to what they like and dislike. Aesthetic is a hard thing to play with and engage, but what we're endeavoring to do is to meet expectations and understand the tone of the community. So you get three concepts working towards a preferred now based on the comments we've heard to date. Next slide. So the survey that went out there, we had 56 respondents for the survey. It was open for 91 days. And the final showed that the timber concept was favored, which was the first one I showed you with the heavier timbers. But you can see out of the 56, 33 or 59, 60% of our respondents preferred that one. The lowest one was my Halliburton forest, the one that had the blue, that was the lighter blue or aqua color that was included in the natural forest scheme. Next slide, please. So this gives you an idea, like in Minden Hills, if we're going to look at the total, we have to calculate the total signs per community. Basically, these are how implementation strategy and budgets are kind of set. The needs are determined through how many signs you may need. When you look at Minden Hills, in Minden itself, we're looking at about 16 directional urban vehicular urban signs, the local signs for MTO2, and then we have directional vehicular local as well, 5 additional. Parking will have 2, information kiosk, we see 2 going in that community. So for a total of 27 signs in the Minden area, Minden Hills. Inglesby, directional vehicular local, 3 signs. In Irondale, we have 2 vehicular type signs happening. There's a 3 and a 2, giving us a total of 5. Laughlin will end up with directional 3 directional signs. And then in the rural areas or Minden Hills, we see 8 additional signs. So total signs for Minden Hills are 46. And again, remember that there's various scales, so thus there'll be different implementation and budgetary needs within that mix of 46. Next slide, please. So we have some recommendations at this point. Destination identification signs. Popular destinations are missing identification signage. We noticed that. It was told to us. Fairgrounds, Cultural Center in Minden. We should be reviewing and editing as needed existing identification signs. We want to really make sure that the effectiveness is there. And certainly what we're seeing everywhere we're going these days is, how in tune to accessibility we may be. Anything that's MTO adjacent, we might consider support of popular destinations and somehow working with the MTO to get that working. The Legion located on Highway 35 in Minden was something that could probably be appropriate to the ministry's TOD signs, the big ones that you see on almost any MTO jurisdictional road in Ontario. And like I said, anywhere there's water, there'll be boat launches. So here we go, 13 boat launches, 5 beaches, 2 trails are noted within the Minden Hills website. So we need to coordinate the relevant information with other townships and municipalities on the website as well, and then develop some eligibility criteria on which boat launches, beach and trailhead directional signage may be needed. Geocaching in Minden Hills, big thing. Irondale is the only geocaching area in the municipality, township. Additional symbol or signage identifying arrival in this area will assist visitors with this activity. Halliburton is a big geocaching destination. We should have all our component municipalities and townships included. Next slide, please. Move into phase 3, and this is just a bit of a graphic on showing how we suggest implementation happens as a strategy. Obviously, you're going to review your strategy. You're going to create priorities. You're going to have, as Scott said, this is going to be a 2 to 5 year kind of implementation. You're going to have a yearly plan. You review budgets, you see what you have available, you look at your sign locations and the messaging charts and get those together. Ensure that you have the funding to do this. Obviously, no surprise, this is usually a tendered process. We select a contractor. We've seen that happen, contractor annually or for the full term of the project, really up to procurement within the project. we do some prototypes. Let's test the signs, install some prototypical signs out there, and then review the progress and obviously prepare for next year. So it's a very circular process, ongoing throughout a year. The management team has a lot of input into this, and again, having that yearly plan and seeking priorities, which can change annually depending on a number of things. Next slide, please. So some priority considerations, when we look at these, there's a lot of things to think about, but let me talk about how, priorities are important to the management team, and understanding what can logically happen. There's a few things to think about here. None of these are in particular order for us. They're presented as common concerns, and the management team should review and prioritize sign implementation each year. So let's think about, again, no priority, organizing, securing management team. Who sits on this? Where are existing wayfinding gaps? Or can we identify and sign problem areas? Once you look at these gaps, are there things that are in disrepair? When you start thinking about which part of the township gets these signs at this point, well, you'll look at that. Look at the economic impact, the biggest bang for the buck. Get a sign built, get a prototype, get some input based back on that. You're going to coordinate with your neighbors. There's opportunities where the strategy could go beyond Minden Hills for sure, and deal with some of the neighbors. Obviously, if anything's missing, you will need new identification signs. Ensure that, you're appealing to civic pride. In most cases, in most of these projects, we find that citizens, residents, and visitors are usually quite proud of signage and having something marked. We can incorporate new signs in new projects. It's not about all the existing replacements. If there's new projects coming online, the strategy works with new projects. And as the last thing, obviously, available budget, where the dollars come from. Next slide, please. So that's it. That's quick. There's a lot of information in the document, and hopefully you've gotten through it. We're quite happy with Scott to entertain some questions if there are any.
Thank you. So Scott, before we questions, maybe you could and I know you did mention it a little bit, but tell us, what are you looking to us for? And then what do you think the steps are? Because we have to, obviously, this is both county and at the municipal level, and then give an idea on costing.
Through your worship. So really today we'd be looking for, if there's a sign design concept that you feel strongly about, that would be really helpful. You don't need to pass a motion for it, but if I can walk out of here knowing, 1, 2, or 3 is, a preferred option, that'll help us finalize. When we present it to county council, as I said, ideally, I would like to present it with one concept there and say, we've had support from the townships on this. And then once that's adopted, we move into the next phase of kind of scoping. The presentation when we were last July, actually, we went back and forth on kind of budgeting and including kind of what we thought some of those numbers would be. It's that staff reports, it's linked in the staff report I provided. It can scare people away sometimes, but I think the number was, between kind of 500 and 650,000. So I'm not saying that flippantly, but that's why, placed a lot of emphasis on this is something we would view being funded through the municipal accommodation tax. I don't think in a sane mind come back to this this township council and ask you for more money to help us implement this strategy. So that's really why I stress, like, when you're talking implementation, or I'm really viewing at probably a 3 to 5 to 6 year plan. Just given it's going to take some time to probably but collect the revenue through the MAP program, and then scope the project, recognizing that there's 4 jurisdictions that we'd be dealing with. So how are we going to do that? And working with the Public Works Department. I think when Sean was mentioning management team, it would really be once we're kind of drilling down the scope, it would then be engaging with the municipalities impacted, and particularly their public works, and probably rec staff, just to confirm we're all on the same page. But those are the preliminary numbers. I think it's important to note, having gone through one of these in the past, what will be presented to county council too, as well, is really, here's the total cost, but when you're phasing the implementation of that, here's what it would look like in a given year. And I think Sean touched on it as well. Even within that, let's say 2026 implementation plan, you could pluck out things that you're just going to say, that's what's really important to us this year. And that can pare the cost down as well. And then you just, kind of phase out the implementation as well. If it's, I'm not saying that would be the priority of county council or this council, but you might just say, in between 26 and 27, we want to have gateway signs installed. And then that's all we're going to do, because that's what we're comfortable with. And we feel financially that is what we're capable of doing. Having the strategy obviously gives us the ability as well to apply for government grants, which can kind of change that schedule. But, very, very cognizant of the impact this would have from a costing standpoint. So if we didn't have the municipal accommodation tax in place, I probably in reality, I'm not sure if I'd be sitting in front of you just saying, here's a $600,000 project. Wayfinding is important for a destination, in an economic development standpoint, but sometimes it's given the list of priorities we have, it would probably not be at the top of the list from a county council or township council standpoint. I totally respect that. So on the phasing, again, it would really come down to budget, and we'll be as prudent and responsible as we can if the strategy is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Councillor Saini?
Yes, thank you very much. And I'm very excited to see this happening and supportive all the way. And I have a few points that I'd like to identify, that some are organizational and some are issues, but hopefully this will help strengthen. I think, first of all, it was great to see that this came from the Cultural Resources Committee from Dysart. We don't have such a committee here. So we don't have that kind of communications formally from the community into our fold here at this table to speak on that particular area. And we don't have a BIA, which other communities have. So we want to make sure that those interests of who would be in the BIA or the people who are interested in this project have some kind of voice into this council. So I just want to raise that, because I think it's really important that we find a way to make sure Minden community's voices are part of this too. And we need to look at that as a council, I think, to bring that forward a bit louder, I think, and clear. So that was my first thing. I loved your word when you said expedite. That was if we could expedite things, because we know our businesses are really longing for this. Particularly even just a sign on Highway 35 that points to our downtown area, and working with MTO on that. I think if we expedite anything, that would be a great thing to start expediting. And the other thing that I didn't see on here, and if I missed it, please excuse me, but one of the important things that people are looking for when they're traveling is Wi-Fi and public washrooms. So if we can make sure that there is a sign somewhere that says public washrooms and Wi-Fi, and locate people to our Riverwalk and some of the great eating establishments and beverage establishments in the area, that would be a really important thing. If we could expedite that on Highway 35, they would be sending you those little kisses over the text messages, I think. So, and the other thing, I'm not sure which two hiking trails were mentioned here in the area, but did I miss QE2 Park? Is that in here? And so that's one of our big features here. There has been some talk about doing some trips from our parking lot and over to QE2 Park, and from the community's perspective, to get people involved here and to realize this amazing resource that we have. Of course, there's the Ganaraska Trail, the River Walk. So I don't know if those were the two that were mentioned when you said two in Minden. I don't know if those were the ones. And then there are a lot of people that come through here, and you touched about off-roading a bit on here. But certainly the snowmobile trail and the off-roading trails, there's access through our community, especially the upper part where you just see Highway 118 going through. There's a lot of off-road trails and tourism that comes through in that way, kind of heading in towards Carnarvon. So that really needs to be highlighted from signage and what's available where, and maybe even some additional ways through. But I'm very excited to see this. So thanks for bringing this forward today, and hopefully we'll find a way to continue this other than just through council, but have some focus of having our community input into this, even though we don't have a BIA or a formal committee at least at this point in time. So thank you for this work, Scott. It's great to see. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor McKelvey?
Thanks, Scott. So I just want to go back to the budget. Are we going to, yeah, maybe if you could do that. Are we going to be paying this, or is it the county's portion of the MAT tax?
Through your worship, it would be funded through the county's portion of the MAT tax.
Okay.
So I guess indirectly through the revenue received, it would from Minden, you would be a portion of that.
Right.
But as I said, unless the request came directly from your council where you said we want to maybe install more signs and we'd love to have a conversation about using some of our revenue. But I have zero plans to approach this council asking for money outside of what would be managed at the county level. And then just further to that, it would essentially the signs would become part of the county's asset management plan as well. So every year in the operational budget for the Municipal Services Corporation that would manage that revenue, a portion it would be subject to board approval, obviously, but I would be strongly advocating for a portion of that revenue to go towards sign maintenance and replacement to ensure that, again, we're not scrambling. If, we have another winter like we did this year, you're going to see some damage. It's just the way it's going to go. So that will be part of the process as well. So long-winded answer to I could have just said no, I guess. Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Sisson?
Yeah, I'd just like to reconfirm, you said there were 56 respondents. Who and how did you get a hold of these people? And furthermore, I would definitely agree with concept number one myself.
Through your worship, we reached out actually directly to all municipal councillors with the surveys, as well as we publicize it through the county's weighed-in platform. By no means would I say that, saying 56 people is use that as a representation. It is the data we have. So, we willing to share it. Councillor Saney, I can republish the survey if you'd like. And I think I have the contact list for kind of the group that meets informally in downtown Minden. And I can share that with them again to get additional input as we move through the process. So, yeah, outside of print media and social media, that would be basically how we handled it.
Councillor McKelvey?
So, Councillor Saney mentioned like businesses, restaurants and that sort of thing, but that's not what this is going to be. This is just our public venues or that sort of thing. Is that?
Yeah, through your worship. So I'll decide, because I don't want to open up. We might be here for a long time in the design concept Sean showed you, there was kind of a post that was like an information post. So what I've seen in other communities would be there would be signage directing people down into the downtown. And then once they were there into the downtown, in some cases, there's a kiosk that would literally just list every business that is within that downtown boundary. Traditionally, that's the case when there's a BIA. However, I think there would be ways we probably could solve or accommodate that. It would probably just be through kind of saying, here's just a jurisdictional boundary, and anyone in this will put on a signage board. Or in some cases, they just literally have an information post that has, maps and pamphlets and things like that. So that's how we would, you could handle as a possibility to identify those businesses within the downtown. just even the board within the downtown of Minden, that would be a really good example that probably through this process, we would, you know, either replace or refurbish, and would be probably an excellent opportunity to, you know, list your businesses within that jurisdiction. But that probably would be, again, part of your, when we're scoping it. And if we got down to that level of detail, which is a distinct possibility, whether that's a conversation with your entire council or just, you know, your management team here, you know, but happy to have that to make sure that we can represent as many people as possible.
Councilor McKelvey?
Two things. What, I support the timber. I supported the timber on my survey that I did. So is that, you definitely need us to say now at this point? We all like the timber and.
The loaded question for me. It's I usually direct those ones to my CAO, but you can either, you know, if I have input from just kind of you as a group, you can do it individually here. Sorry, I'm the clerk, and anytime a clerk raises their hand, I always defer. So
So council, if you wish, I've already drafted a resolution. So if council is agreeable to the survey majority, which is the concept option 1 timber, I already have that sort of crafted in the resolution. If that helps council make a decision today, I think it would be more clear if we provide a resolution to the county.
Go ahead.
Okay, and if I may. And I'm not sure, there's another county initiative for a sign. And I can't, is that different from this? Like, there's some kind of a sign it's being proposed, I think, across from the post office, but Mike, did I dream this?
the through your worship, I believe it's Eric, our tourism coordinator, has just been working on just kind of updating the local kind of community boards it's just with a map.
Okay.
With some assets. When we started that process, we received some funding through the Rural Economic Development Program for that. When the maps were designed, they were designed with a purpose that we could take them down and repurpose them in the future if and when hopefully the wayfinding strategy is implemented.
Okay.
Just that decision was made kind of with that in mind as well.
Thanks.
Okay, input on timber. Is people generally in favor of the timber? Seeing nods all around. I think you can read your resolution.
So moved by Councillor Johansson, seconded by Councillor Saini, that council receives a presentation regarding the Haliburton County Community Wayfinding Strategies information, and that council concurs with the survey majority and directs to proceed with sign concept option 1 timber.
All those in favor? That is carried. Mr. Obel, always a pleasure.
Thank you, council. I appreciate you. I know this is, it's a lot of information, and when we get into design concepts, it can go a lot of different directions. So I appreciate the direction from the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we move directly to adoption of minutes from the previous meetings. This was the meeting of April 24th, regular council meeting, and 2 public meetings. Any comments or amendments? Seeing none, please read the resolution.
Moved by Councillor Johansson, seconded by Councillor Saini. Be it resolved that council approves the following meeting minutes: April 24th, 2025, regular council minutes, and 2 public meeting minutes for applications PLZBA 2024071 and PLZBA 2024077.
All those in favor? It's carried. Payments of accounts are going to be included with the quarterly reporting. So we go directly to the mayor's report. It feels good not to be in a state of emergency. The reason for the prolongation of the state of emergency was really because of the it seemed dire and gloomy weather reports that we were getting from Environment Canada and Parks Canada every time we met, and the fact that our fragile ecosystem out there was You know, anytime there was wind, there was branches coming out of the trees, which were blocking the culverts, which was washing out roads, and so on and so forth. So last week or this week, God, you know, it all blends together. We finally got news that there was a little bit of buffer available to us in the lakes above Minden, and the fact that you know, the rain that was in the forecast was not going to be threatening to us. Does not mean we're totally out of the woods. There's still a lot of water in the system. It's being moved. You will see the Gull River going through Minden is up and down and seemingly every day, and that is planned as they move water around and try to get the water downstream. They will soon start putting the logs in the dams to actually capture water so that we have water for through the summer. But right now we still have another week or two of high water. It's moving fast. We have tried to put out the message to everybody, just, you know, pay attention and stay away from the waters because there's still some danger out there. The cleanup was that we're doing in conjunction with the county. Well, first of all, there's our own cleanup of the roads. You know, in the initial phase, we managed to get the roads, so the roads were cleared, but you still saw some material that was, you know, on the shoulders. And so the cleanup now is to not only do the shoulders, but do the full road allowance. And particularly, you know, the ditches that were filled with lots of material that we need to get rid of. And then in conjunction with the county, and to a lesser extent with some neighboring municipalities, we're doing the cleanup whereby people can move material to the side of the road, and we'll be hauling that material away. That the size and the enormity of all this is shown by the fact that, you know, this is going to be like a 5-week job that will last us well into June. And I'm sure there will be other things that linger beyond that, but we are out of the state of emergency. We survived. You know, I think that everybody worked together, and that really made an incredible difference. So one of the things that I think has been attached is we have a lot of thank yous. And so we put together a list that, you know, on behalf of council, I will be sending out thank you notes to some organizations and to some even individuals within the organizations. If there's anybody that you think needs to be added, please let the clerk know, and we can go from there. You know, there were countless other acts that took place between, you know, private individuals, or in some cases perhaps a you know, a group and private individuals, but, you know, we're not in knowledge of those events because they weren't done on behalf or to the municipality. So, but if there's anybody that we want to add to the list, please, as I said, let the clerk know. I'm also wanted to note that we had applied for, and we received a grant from Ontario Hydro, who created a special fund made available to municipalities. And it really helps us because the government assistance that we may receive through the various programs associated with emergencies state that you cannot buy an asset. So you can only buy consumables. And in our case, we had to go out and buy some radios and some chainsaws and things like that, which would be considered an asset and the provincial government wouldn't pay for. So the hydro grant allows us to cover off some of those incidentals. So that really is all I had to say. So let's hope we can last a long time before the next emergency. Councilor McKelvey?
I just feel that the people controlling the water really did do a good job. I mean, it came up where you were really worried and then they kept it there and they put it down, and you know, this morning it's low. But I think they did a tremendous effort with that. Anyways, the other thing I wanted to mention, if I could, was I went to a CHA meeting on the weekend, which was really interesting. You were there, Mayor Carter. One of the presentations was a video called Poop Talk, the number 2. I thought it was really well done, and I would really like to see this on our website. So I don't know if we need a resolution for this or.
I think sorry.
Staff would be happy to accommodate for that. We can reach out and
Yeah, if you
see and
reach-
seek permission to link to their, absolutely. We don't need a resolution. I don't think we can look into that.
I just comment on your, every year we work with Parks Canada and MNR on the freshet and potential for flooding. This year we started in late February, early March, so well before the ice storm. But Parks Canada, I really can't say enough about how good it is to work with them. And they met with us 3 times a week and more when we had to get information between those meetings. Considering that the staff of Parks Canada who control the dams and the water flow and the forecasting do both the Trent Severn Waterway and the Rideau Canal, and the Rideau had some issues this year also. So those people were extremely busy working 7 days a week. So I concur that they did a wonderful job, and along with lots of other people, but they are on the list for us to give thanks to. Councillor Saini, roam aboard.
Thank you. Through the mayor, we haven't had a meeting since our last one, so this is a very brief report. Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to correspondence and communication. First is a notice of motion from Councillor Saini. So Councillor Saini, I'll let you speak to that.
This won't be quite as brief, but probably very brief too. So this is a motion to welcome, should I read the motion? The Minden Hills Council extends its welcome to the speakers from AMO regarding the Healthy Democracy Project and expresses appreciation for the opportunity to host an event aimed at fostering a broader understanding of governance, thereby encouraging effective participation in governance throughout the Haliburton Highlands community and further. The council welcomes the promotion of this event by the community members in consultation. Bit of background on this. This could have come to council a bit earlier, but due to our emergency and we weren't meeting as a council. So sorry for the delay on this, but it is a very exciting event that's taking place. And we have a commitment from 2 speakers from AMO who have been working on the Healthy Democracy Project. this is something that's very important to our communities, especially in these political times. And what we're hoping is that more people will be encouraged to vote, but also run. And we're particularly, one of my interests is trying to get people who are, no offense to any of us on the here, but younger on councils and to participate in the process. And the Healthy Democracy Project from AMO is a long researched project with expertise from various sectors of communities that bring forth what is democracy and how do you continue a healthy democracy. And I think this is particularly important in the times that we're facing right now and the challenges, as we're seeing a lot of people who are getting very frustrated, a lot of people who are, we see a lot of fake news out there. A lot of people don't understand how governance works, how to participate in governance. We can see that with the frustration sometimes with the public. How do we work here at the municipality? Why we have to do certain things that we do or not do. So I think this is an opportunity to begin that dialogue with the broader community. In this resolution, I'm hoping that we will support this today, but also say after today, after this is approved, if anybody on council, I'm looking at everybody, wants to help in facilitating this, just let me know. There's a role for everybody here. And so I'll leave it at that unless there's any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Councillor McKelvey?
The date, it's not in the resolution, so maybe we could get that out there.
Thank you for that. Yes, I forgot that. It's May 28th. And it will be, and I don't want to give the wrong hours, but it will be a couple hours around, we tried to do it after work hours, basically. So I'm just, what is it? And the clerk is shaking yes, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And it's at the Nesbitt Community Center. So 55 Parkdale and Parkside, Parkdale. That's an old one. Yeah, 55 Parkside at our community center there. And so we have a few things that are going to be very helpful in this. In the organizing of it. We really don't know how many people who will be attending, but the Aging Together as community are going to be doing a couple of things for us. One of them is to create the poster for signage. And the other one is to take registrations, which is great because then we will know how many people to expect. And they're also doing some of the publicity for their No One contacts that they have. But we certainly can use a lot more word of mouth and getting the word out there that this is happening. Following this, I might add that there's also people that have been in politics in the past in Haliburton County and people who have been leaders in our community that are looking at following up later in the fall with more focus on encouraging people to participate and run for elections. And so they'll be having other sessions. They are still in the planning stage of that, so there's not much more to report than that at this point. But to just say this is an introduction to get our community involved, and then there will be probably more opportunities later. One of the things I like about the Healthy Democracy Project, and it is online under the AMO website, is they have what's called a resource bank. So it's resources for any kind of issues that you're dealing with in your community. You can go on there and see if other communities have dealt with that before and how they addressed it. So it's a great resource. It is tremendous in encouraging the diversity of the communities, making sure that they're represented in councils. And I'll leave it at that because it's a very large project and we're only going to be having 2 hours of that presentation on May 28th. Thank you.
At 6 p.m. in Parkside.
Yes, 6 p.m. Parkside. Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other questions?
Okay.
Councilor McKelvey?
So Councillor Saini's already put the motion on the floor. It was seconded by Councillor Johannesson, so the mayor just needs to call the question.
All those in favor? That is carried. moving on, we received notice from AMO that they're starting to accept requests for delegations at the AMO conference. Just to let you know, there are one or two delegations that we will be doing in conjunction with the city of Kawartha Lakes, vis-a-vis housing. Next week, we are having meetings with, or at our county council meeting, we're putting together a number of potential delegations that will be a request from the county that is on community paramedics, on emergency management and response and preparedness, and potentially funding. Sorry, I can't think of the other one.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think you've hit the main ones. I know that I'm working with my counterpart at the county, particularly for emergency preparedness and response. And the specifics are really the communication service providers, fuel service providers, and trying to communicate the rural perspective versus the urban perspective.
Right.
If you will.
Yes, I think that we're still in the process of going through postmortems, which will, take some time. But a couple of the things that occurred, of course, was our lack of communication, or our loss of communication. And now this is this is not a provincial responsibility, it's more of a federal responsibility, as we want to see if there's a way through the CRTC where, in this type of a situation, if, for instance, the Bell network goes down, is there a way to automatically switch everything over to the Rogers network, which did not go down. And so, or only went down partially. So it's almost a technological issue, but it's technology that exists. So it could be done. It would just be whether or not the federal government would, impress upon the major carriers to allow something like that to happen. The other thing was in trying to determine essential services. One of the issues that we had was with the propane delivery. If we had a gas utility here, of course, that would probably, certainly be an essential service. Might even be a public utility, but here, so many people rely on propane. And I think in particular, the situation whereby the propane, the small local propane companies have all been bought up by larger enterprises. And, phone calls into those larger enterprises may have been routed to a call center that wasn't even in this country and didn't really have a real appreciation for what might be happening locally. So we want to see if the provincial government can help us in that regard, so that we can, either, amend contracts so that these people know that, we get priority for things like our fire stations and their warming stations and facilities. And yeah, there's a number of other things. So long way around. Is there anything that council thinks should be brought up as strictly a Minden delegation to at the AMO conference? Councilor McKelvey.
Couple of things come to mind, and it's not necessarily just a Minden issue, so I don't know if you could do it collaboratively or not, but the Blue Box program and this whole, if you bring a water bottle to work, it goes in the commercial non-eligible. If you take it home, it's this is really impacting rural Ontario, and so it's not just a Minden Hills issue,
Right.
but it's a big issue, and I would really suggest that that happen. The other one is the lake health issue that we've just been made aware of from FOCA. It's been added on the agenda. I think this is a really important service that we don't want to lose. Or again, it's not just a Minden Hills. This is a province of Ontario. In our township, the biggest economic engine we have is our lakes. So if they won't help support the lake testing program, that's a big issue, I feel. So those are the two that I would like to put forward for you to do, and I won't be there.
The FOCA one is, I'll have to admit, that letter came as a bit of a surprise to me. I've been trying to find out, you know, the kind of the genesis of that, because we have a lake testing program here locally that, and we are working with, you know, many other groups on this, which is different than the provincial one. Okay. There's a provincial one where they look at lakes I think about every 5 years. They come and do some testing. So I'll have to admit, I'm a little confused at this, and I've put out some feelers that try to get the questions answered. Go ahead.
So my understanding, and I've only spoken to one person, but the person's very knowledgeable, is that we have all kinds of dedicated volunteers around our lakes that do the samples.
Right.
But it gets sent to a lab, and the province pays for the laboratory costs through this program. Then there's also some other costs that they're covering. So my understanding is that this isn't just the once every 5-year thing. But I just don't want, we're going to lose an opportunity here if we don't really take this on. So
Yeah, I'm just, so you know, the county program where we've been testing, we started off with 10 lakes, and now we're up to, I think, 25 associations and more lakes than that. The province wasn't providing us with free analysis. We were paying for that analysis to be done at the lab, and we've been working together with a couple of universities to try to get, I don't want to say subsidized, but a lower rate for the testing. Because if you go to a lab and say, hey, I want to get this test in, you pay a certain amount. If a university goes, they pay a different amount. So we've been working on that. So there, in my mind anyway, there's some confusion on this, and like I said, I'm trying to figure out what it is. But yeah, hey, any money that the province is spending in this area with our thousands and thousands of lakes across Ontario, I mean, this should be enhanced as opposed to canceled. So, Councillor Sainick?
Yes, thank you. I've had the opportunity at several conferences and sidebars with the people from FOCA, and I think this is a really critical issue, and I think we need to support it. We need the province. It's fine for us to do things as lower government, but if the province isn't supporting our environment and fresh water and our testing and seeing what development is happening because or the quality of our water because of various developments that come in are happening, then we don't have provincial support. We don't have any support. They are the province. They rule. We can do anything we want at the county level or as communities. I know my lake as well. They've been doing this testing for years, and it's very interesting, and everybody looks for those water reports. And we're very concerned about the blue algae, and we now are seeing an increase of that in our communities. We know that our economy is based on that tourism in our lakes. So I think this is a really important issue. I'd like to, at the very least, to see us support the FOCA resolution on this. So I know there's always more research that could be done and how things work, but at this point, I think they need our support. The time is coming. August will be here momentarily. So let's just support it. So that's my position on that particular letter. Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, the FOCA is on, it was 11.4 and I'm agreeing, but right now we're just looking at municipal delegations. Counselor Saini?
Yes, thank you. I just wanting to know who on the council is going to the AMO conference that would be part of a delegation. Okay, thank you. And I would suggest that we still have one more meeting if we wanted to word a delegation to put something in, do we not? Or is it, do we have to decide at this meeting?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would suggest the council gives us direction at this meeting. The deadline is the end of May, but staff can put briefings together and make submission for the items that council is interested in, but I would not want to wait until the last minute to identify the areas that you may want submissions for. And right now, we're just requesting a delegation, right? We may or may not be granted.
Counselor Saini?
Yeah, I think through the year, there's been a few issues that have come up that we think this would be a good delegation. Part of it is the funding model that's over 100 years old. It isn't working. There's been more downloading, and we certainly need to address that, particularly for rural communities. Our infrastructure, how we have to support roads, is growing, and bridges and culverts in our areas, in our rural communities can't continue to support those expenses. So I think the funding model has to change. That would be one focus. The other thing is that I'm concerned that there have been some delegations in the past and some of our work at AMO around the kinds of behaviors of counselors, and to have the legislation be strengthened at the provincial level from what they were proposing. So I know that is a common issue, when we saw 2,000 people stand up in support of making those changes at a conference. The other one that we haven't had even a chance to talk about at the emergency, because of the emergency situation we were in, is the Strong Mayors Act. And I know there'll be delegations coming from different municipalities regarding the Strong Mayors Act, and we haven't even had a chance to put that on our local agenda yet. So that's another issue that we might want to be addressing at the provincial level. So those are the things that come to mind if we were looking at what submissions we might propose. So thank you.
Go ahead.
I just want to remind council before we draft the resolution, you can only meet with a minister once. So you need to prioritize what item you wish to address with that minister, because you can't meet for multiple reasons. So it has to be one item that you're addressing with the minister.
Ah.
So, the funding model, I think, is a worthwhile thing to be looking at. The question is that, which minister is that? Is it municipal affairs and housing, or is it finance? So, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I've sort of noted a number of items, and all of them worthy. I do know something like the lake health or the blue box. I'm not aware of other agencies or organizations taking those on. I do know Councillor Saini's comments about the funding model. There are a number of different large organizations kind of trying to tackle that one. I'm just looking at where we might be successful in getting actually getting before a minister with a delegation. Same thing with the code of conduct. I know there's a number of agencies doing work around the code of conduct. So I think
Well, I think. Now I can't remember. There was something that came last week on the code of conduct, right? There was the legislation.
right, there's new legislation and a new process for integrity commissioners as well.
So,
To the mayor, it's inadequate. It's not what we were asking for at AMO or Roma. Thank you.
but it is the change that they at the Roma conference that they said they would be coming forward with, right? The Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, who, yes, it's changed now, but that's at the Roma conference. What they put through is what they said they were going to do at Roma.
If I understand the question, the answer is no, it's not the same. And that's why I think we need more clarification on what we're looking for in that.
Sorry, but it's.
If we have the motions before us, if we have the actual, what was proposed before us, we could speak more directly to it. But in point, it had to do with making sure that, for example, well, I don't want to speak to things in the air. I want to see the actual agreement. There are some things in there that are weak. I wasn't prepared to speak to it at this point, but that needs to be strengthened. And there's particular points on that. So I'm not sure if we can, what we're trying to do here right now, frankly. Thank you.
Well, we're trying to see if there's any delegations that we would want to make at the municipal level in Township of Minden Hills, that at the AMO conference. The funding issue is an issue I think that affects us directly, and yes, there are people who are talking about that. But I think that it's one where we can show real issues that are affecting us on on an annual basis in terms of the amount of money that we're getting with our, particularly now that we have our asset management numbers, and what is going to be needed for us to maintain those assets on a go forward if we don't have adequate funding. That's McKelvey.
We don't have enough in our asset management plan to go and present to the minister and say, because we're still working on it. And
Sure, but we have an orders of magnitude of what.
and every municipality in Ontario has that.
Right.
And every association, AMO, Roma, AMCTO, municipal finance officers, the Canadian Municipal Association, like the list is endless, and they've got a lot more resources than we do to
Sure.
even put forth. So while I agree, funding is a huge issue from the province, I don't particularly feel we're in any better shape to try and take that project to the ministry. Myself, just my opinion.
Yeah, it's fair.
Nobody's taking up this blue box. I don't know what's happening here as far as, has nobody realized what's happening? At least I'm not seeing it anywhere. So.
Go ahead.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, and maybe staff can take this on. I think we've got an upcoming timeline to put in a couple of requests for delegations. All of the other items are worthy, and maybe we should have a conversation in the fall, well in advance of, let's say, the Roma conference in January, so that we can flesh a few of these bigger items out in detail. I think if I look at the list, the two that would probably be quickest for staff to put briefing together and submit would be the blue box and the health of our lakes items. I think the other ones, to Councillor Saini's point, probably need much more fulsome discussion. Right. And so what I would suggest, Mr. Mayor, is not losing the other items, but maybe we have a session on upcoming delegations at one of our fall council meetings.
And I would prefer that the blue box one be at the county, to show that we had at least 4 municipalities that were concerned about this, because the issue has got to be right across the county, correct?
Not necessarily, Mr. Mayor. Like, I think it does affect folks, but I mean, we can work with the county and our other counterparts, but we actually provide the service at the local level.
Okay.
So.
Councillor Ingram?
Through the chair, I would agree with the CAO's suggestion there. I don't think we have enough time to, as you said, get into the nuts and bolts of where the needs really are. This blue box thing is as simple as it seems is going to be huge. It really is. And I think we need to nip it in the bud as quickly as we can. So I like that idea. I like the idea of coming back earlier for Roma and having a discussion so we can really get into it. It's only fair to everyone else that we do it that way, I think. Thank you.
I think the blue box one, it would be good to have, if we in August, if we can at least, even if we don't have all the information, to be able to put it on notice that, hey, wait a minute, you've given us something here that is really difficult for us to be able to deal with, and is costing money, which is, so if we could do something there, Councillor McKelvey.
Just the other thing it's costing is an inconvenience to the commercial operators. I mean,
Yeah,
by way of logistics, we have to designate them to come to one landfill site. That's not very convenient for the people that are running a business in Irondale or Moores Falls.
right.
But so it's not only the extra cost, it's the inconvenience. It's they're supposed to be supporting business people, and that's not really coming out in this.
Okay. So, Councillor Saini.
Yes, thank you, the mayor.
Shooting me there.
Look at 2 directions at once. No, if we're looking for a motion, I would support doing our Minden Council do a delegation on the Blue Box program and the lake health at our next AMO meeting. And that also just not part of the motion, but to include that AMO has outlined a way to write those proposals that will help to get them accepted. If they're well written, they do get accepted. So I just wanted to make sure that, I just want to put forward a motion agreeing with Councillor Ingram that we need more discussion and details on the other items that we haven't had the opportunity yet to do here. So postponing that till Romans, I think a really good idea. So that would be my motion somewhere.
So all I've drafted this far is just that council directs the mayor and staff to submit application to ministers regarding the Blue Box program and the lake health issues for water testing and lake partner programs.
Okay, I'm good with the blue box. The lake health one is, I'm all for supporting FOCA on this, but in terms of making a delegation, what kind of a delegation could we make? I mean, we don't have the expertise in this area really to be dealing with this. Go ahead.
I think we have an incredible amount of resources, probably more than many in terms of the science behind what we're discussing here. And our economy is based on the health of our lakes. So I think we need to first of all point out that our economy, how we're paying for those roads right now, is because of our lake health. So I do think that we have enough information to say to the government, we need to pay attention to this issue. And I think FOCA needs our support as a municipality. They do not have a direct conversation like we have the opportunity to do as a council with the province. So I do think we need to include the lake health on this. It's been a long time. FOCA has been here longer than I can remember, and CHA has been around and doing this work forever as well. So I think we can use their resources in putting this forward. I don't think we have a lack of resources to identify
All right,
lake health.
so can I
Thank you.
suggest that we look at those two items? We have a meeting on the 29th.
Oh,
May. When's our next? 29th of May,
29th of May.
and we make a final decision there based on what staff can come up with.
no,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think it's fair to the staff to wait till May 29th. If we're not agreeing with something here and they do a bunch of work and then we say, oh, never mind, we really didn't mean that. We put a resolution out here today and say what we mean. And as far as expertise, there's quite a bit in the community. You could take a FOCA person with you. I mean,
through you, Mr. Mayor, I would prefer to have direction today.
Okay.
And be able to do the research and put in, I mean, I've written a number of briefs over the years. I would remind council that we're making a request for a delegation.
Yep.
So we may be granted both of them. We may be granted none.
Okay, fine. So read the resolution then. Yeah.
So the amendment, Deputy Mayor Shell and Councillor McKelvey. And so I'll read the full resolution. That council receives correspondence regarding the municipal delegation request for the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO 2025 Annual Conferences information. And that council directs the mayor and staff to submit application to the ministers regarding the Blue Box program and the lake health issues for water testing and lake partner programs.
All those in favor?
Oh, do you need an edit, Councillor McKelvey?
Go ahead.
okay, I'm just curious. You've got it in there that the mayor and staff do this. Is that something in the strong mayor's power? Is that why it says that?
May I answer through the chair? No, that's typically how we coordinate the delegation requests.
Okay.
Sometimes it's another member of council, but for sure it's the mayor and the clerk that draft the submission.
Well, you've got it as mayor and staff, but that's fine. Doesn't matter.
Would you like the CAO? I'm happy to.
All those in favor? Councillor Saini?
I was just going to suggest that maybe Councillor McKelvey would also want to be part of the drafting of that as well. No? Okay. Okay, perfect. All right.
Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to 11.3, search. Sorry, where's that? Who's that coming from?
I'm happy to discuss. So a member of Search reached out to the clerk's department requesting the delegation. They do hold this event in Halliburton. The member acknowledged that they do have quite a few members of Minden Hills that do attend, so they felt the need to expand the event to offer it in Minden Hills. And then when seeking to book for the facility, they realized that they couldn't afford the rate for the rental of the community center. So they are requesting to have the fee waived for 2 dates, which is the June, I think it's, let me just pull up the correspondence, my apologies. I closed it down here. So it's June 1st and it's September 7th.
Councillor McKelvey?
They've had this in Minden before. I don't know if anybody's gone to it, but it's like, it's really interesting. It's kind of cool, the stuff that you could take there and somebody's gonna fix it. So I'm so glad they're coming here again. I think policy 91 covers it. And I understand we may have gone over our financial limit in our budget, but that really shouldn't matter. Policy 91 covers it and staff can deal with it, in my opinion.
Go ahead.
It really, at this point, and this has come up before in the past over the years. I think we need to allow our manager at that facility a little more leeway as to when this situation like this comes up. The policy's there. There's not a budget as such, right? There's approval, there is, but really for something like this to come to, it really doesn't need to come to this table. I think we have enough faith in our staff that they can make that decision.
Mr. Mayor,
Following the policy.
we are happy to take that direction. And I would agree, like, these are good community events, and between myself and the manager, we'd be happy to approve them.
If something can be fixed and not go into the landfill, that's another bonus to us. Right? So. It's rewarding and resolution.
So through the chair, just for clarification, so the delegated authority is just to the Director of Community Services, or shall we say /CAO and Director of Community Services?
It's fine. Councilman McKelvey.
Policy 91 does not make reference to what the municipal budget is, that I glanced through quickly. Maybe Blair and I missed the fine print. I believe the staff already have the authority up to $2,000. We amended the policy last year to, if they fulfill the conditions of the policy, you know, you're a charity or blah, 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 you get this waived. So to me, it shouldn't have to even be dealt with here.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're happy. I think our interpretation was that we had the authority, but up to a certain budget amount. If council is comfortable that the authority is already within policy 91, and you're comfortable that for these types of things, we just go ahead and approve, we will take that direction today. Thank you.
I don't think
And so I think you just received for information, Mr. Mayor, and we'll take care of it from there.
Moved by Councilor McKelvey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shell, that council receives correspondence on behalf of Search Community Services requesting a fee waiver as information.
All those in favor? That is carried. And 11.4. I think we've discussed this indirectly, but I think they wish for our support and a letter of support. I think that is something that we'll all be willing to do. Councilman McKelvey.
just, I hate form letters. I know they're trying to help everybody, but just, we could maybe massage it a bit so it looks like it's more of a really strong statement from us and not, here, we just threw it on our letterheads.
Through the chair, staff is happy to accommodate that, Councilor McKelvey. So we can we'll take the template and just massage it a little so that it's more geared to Minden Hills.
Okay. Resolution.
Moved by Councilor McKelvey, seconded by Councilor Sisson, that council receives correspondence from the Federation of Ontario Cottages Association, FOCA, regarding a request to support their Lake Partner Program as information, and further that council directs staff to send a letter of support.
All those in favor? That is carried. We will take a break till 11:05. All right, welcome back. We'd go move directly to department reports. Ms. Fletcher, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. This is more of an organizational report than a departmental report. Through our latest budget process, we committed to bringing quarterly reports to council related to our projects and major initiatives. In this report, we've also included the Aqua major projects and initiatives as well. So what you have before you is a description of the projects, the budget that was assigned to each project, and then there's some financial information and then the status of the project. So if a project's tracking well, it'll have a green indicator. If it's completed, it'll be a check mark. If it's we're waiting for something on the project, it'll usually be that yellow-brown color. And if there are some concerns with the project, it'll be tracking red. Anything yellow and red, we will be getting to the table to find out how we get it to a green status. But the intention of the report, council, is just to give you at key points throughout the year an update and progress for our major initiatives. I think previously you've been getting that only at budget time, but we want to keep you more informed along the way. So with that, Mr. Mayor, the other thing is it is our intention for the next quarterly report to have this report updated and the financials at the same time. I just didn't have time to review with our treasurer all of the financials to get it to today, but it will be here the next council meeting, the quarterly financials.
Okay.
Okay.
Questions? Councilor McKelvey?
Couple of questions on things I would still like to know about, and they're not in this. One's this roof, which obviously isn't done yet.
Okay.
So that was a project from last year that's still
Right.
carried over.
I will look to one of the other staff members to give you an update. There may be some things, some deficiencies or some things that they're just working through. Sometimes on major capital projects, there's a 1-year warranty that, you know, if there's any deficiencies, then the warranty kicks in.
But they're still working up here. I mean, there's barriers around.
Yeah, I can follow up and get an update for you on that.
The other thing is the Highway 35 hydrant project. I know it must be like 99% done, but I don't think it's 100% done yet, so.
I might look to other folks to answer those specific
Over your
questions.
left shoulder.
Yeah, over my left shoulder. Absolutely. We might as well answer the question right now.
Through the chair. So for the roof, we expect 2 or 3 days worth of work. They tried to do it. They originally approached me. They wanted to do it, of course, yesterday and today, which was court and then council. So I'm hoping to get them in. We're looking at 2 or 3 days work and then they are complete and done. They just need to do a little bit of steel flashing and then the gravel top coat and then they're done. Fire hydrants, same. You are right. It's about a 98% completion. It's basically some landscaping, some topsoil, and some final cleanup. So I'll be arranging that with Aqua here. I think they're just waiting on their contractor to get some scheduling, but that'll be high on our list as well to get that done and get that one completely.
So they do the landscaping.
Yes,
I guess that's.
Yes, that's all part of it.
Important question
They will be finishing that up.
Any other questions? Mr. McKelvey?
You should stay. I'll skip to the one that involves you then. Red umbrella culverts. We had it in the budget. We kind of took it out. Then we had a discussion at a previous meeting and our CIO was traveling the world somewhere and we were going to get a report after she returned. Then we had an ice storm. Are we anywhere close to telling us something?
That meeting is upcoming, so pending.
The meeting is with MTO or? Okay. Counselor McKelvey?
Small amount, but it was on our capital sheet for two-way radios for the building department.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, these are intended to be major initiatives
Okay.
and projects. So things like equipment
Okay.
or the radios. You usually get an update through a tender process if we're buying a major piece of equipment. So for all intents and purposes, once you've approved the purchase, we receive and it's done, right?
That's
Oops,
that's
sorry.
fine. I mean, we had the Bailey burn of 5,000 on here and the two-way radios were 9,000. I
Yeah.
didn't know. Is that just not gonna come up?
No, I mean, two-way radios, it's not really a project, it's an equipment purchase.
Okay. One other one is the fireboat isn't on the listing, so I don't know if it should be. Is it not?
It's basically the same sort of thing. It's an equipment purchase. So again, I think Councillor McKelvey, if you're looking for, it's probably through the financial update that you'd be looking for all of the capital program. This report is intended to report on those ongoing bodies of work.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Just through the mayor, just so we can put this to bed. There is no fireboat. We were hoping to purchase the boat through the emergency preparedness grant. We did not receive that grant, so we are not purchasing a boat.
Any other questions on this? Counselor McKelvey?
Accessibility upgrades. I know we're trying to work with the province. I think it's also a federal grant, but to get a rescope. Do we know what the priorities are? It said that council prioritized. I don't know.
Through, Mr. Mayor, I'll maybe ask our treasurer to come up. Through the budget process, we had presented what was originally put in for the
Mhm.
grant and had some discussion with council on if we had to rescope the areas of focus.
So through the chair, staff, we are looking at all the different facilities and trying to rescope that, to take that back to the province to get a new TPA.
Okay, any other questions? We have a resolution.
Moved by Counselor Ingram, seconded by Counselor Saini, that council receives quarterly report Q1, January to March 2025 as information.
All those in favor? It's carried. Mr. Timmons, you escaped too early. So.
Thank you, Mayor Carter. So before you, you have report 2506 for the road marking award. This is the first one that we've seen with some significant changes in cost year over year from last year. Originally, last year we paid about $12,000 for our everything we needed, our services. Based on that and working within our procurement policy, we teamed up with Dysart and we put out some quotes thinking we could just take care of this one on our own. When the price came back, obviously outside of our procurement policy, I'm here to kind of get back in line. So the long and short of this is we did reach out to 4 different contractors. We received 2 bids back. And as you can see, the price has gone up nearly triple to about 28,000, 29,000 to get this work done. What we're seeing here is it is the cost of paint specifically. The unit rate for paint has skyrocketed. And you can actually see this even in our spray cans, like marking cans. You can see this change even at the local level. So this is more of just an information situation here. We generally pay this out of our general overhead operations. So there's still money there. We have currently, at the time of writing the report, there's $74,000 roughly there. So we're not in an overage situation now, but obviously as we go further into the year, as some of the other operations, we may find ourselves in that position. Of course, we're going to make every effort to absorb these costs elsewhere, see if we can modify our operations to stay within budget, of course, but it's just really just an FYI for council that we are seeing this and that this has obviously budgeting going forward will make the adjustment. But for this year, this is the position we're in. So given those circumstances, I am seeking council's direction to award this to, in this case, the lower bidder, which is Upper Canada Road Services for $28,912. And they are available and ready to go as soon as we get the sweeper done. This part of it, we're trying to get this going a little bit quicker this year. So if we can get this done, and the other thing is we are, again, teamed up with Dysart. They're going to provide their sweeper this year rather than going out for a contractor. So we should be seeing that late next week probably, and then hopefully get in here and get our painting done. So that's all I have on this report. Happy to take questions.
Any questions, Councillor Sisson?
To get rising cost of these, would it be possible to pay every 2 years? If put two into one type year?
Through the chair, truthfully, the paint doesn't even last half a year, is what we're seeing. So I don't know that I would recommend that. I get what you're saying. We could maybe consider maybe our parking lots and stuff like that, reducing some prices. Maybe those aren't as critical, but I don't think I can recommend it for the roads and our crosswalks and our parking. If you look out there, the crosswalks are gone. 6 months in, the crosswalks are gone. So.
Any other questions, Councillor Saini?
Yes, thank you. Through the mayor, this begs the question, do you know why the cost of paint has gone up? Do you have any inclination why?
I don't specifically, but I would just chalk it up to the volatile market and what's happening in the world today. If I had to guess, I would imagine it's import and just general uneasiness in the market.
Councillor McKelvey?
Just a question or reminder, the library, did you include that in
The library is included.
Good, because it didn't get done
Yeah.
in their non-existent, so.
Okay, any other questions? Please read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Johansson, seconded by Counselor Saini, that council receives report 2506, Public Works, Roads, Road Markings Award as information, and that council directs staff to award the 2025 road marking contract to Upper Canada Road Services, Inc. for $28,912 plus HST.
All those in favor? This carried. Now to the real meat and potatoes.
Yes, moving on to 2507, which is roads resurfacing contract award. Again, this was one we once again we went in as a group effort with the county in order to increase our buying power on this one. Overall, gravel resurfacing and equipment costs are about where we would expect. If anything, we were a little bit under, like a little bit of surplus in the budget. However, the cold cap asphalt was a little bit higher than expected. Again, I think a lot of this, any petroleum product is going to be coming from the States, and we're seeing definitely some of those costs being affecting us here. So overall, all things considered, we're about 42,000, just shy of $42,000 short on our original estimate to complete all our road work. We received 2 bids. Miller Paving's the low bid. Greenwood Paving, as you can see, is quite a bit higher, and we're about 380,000 short on that one. So again, going with the low bid here, the recommendation is to award this contract to Miller Paving for the 1.6 million and change, 1.6 1,651,000, and change in order to complete all the roads that were proposed in the budget deliberations earlier this year.
Questions? Councilor McKelvey?
Just the drawing of the extra from the roads capital reserve. I would just like to say that, or see that that's only if necessary. I mean, we could have this big surplus at the end of the year on other things that could help pay for, that's my suggestion. We don't predetermine the 42,000 roughly gonna come from our capital reserve at this point.
I,
Crickets.
Mr. Mayor.
I mean, we have the money, so that reserve can handle it, so we at least know that it can be handled. If we have a surplus at the end of the year, we can top it back up. I mean, it's, you know, we have the money to do this, no matter where it comes from. So I think I'm not sure it's altogether that important that we determine where it will come from. We're probably 6 months out, 7 months out before we even pay these bills, right? So we'll have a better idea of what monies are available. I guess my only question is that, so if tariffs or whatever are affecting this because we have materials that are coming from the US, is this future proofed? I mean, if, you know, 2 months from now when they're doing this work, they find out that it's going to cost more than they expect, do we have a firm contract?
I think Mr. Timmons can speak to the firm contract. I think mine was more the crystal balling.
Yeah.
What's going to happen in the future is a little
No, I'm
difficult.
talking about this contract.
Through the chair, these rates are locked in, provided we respond obviously with the agreement. And I will say, just as anecdotally, I know contractors, some of these contractors, I've met with them, and they are preparing next year to try to do all Canadian purchasing, everything they can. So they are making their adjustment as well to try to not only support the Canadian, but avoid any future issues. So we are collectively, we are trying to get it a little bit more in line and try to get some stability, even if we have to do it at the local level.
Right. Any other questions? Read the resolution, please.
So is council still reconsidering the roads capital reserve? Because what I can do, so, and through the director of finance, I'm assuming we need to do this by resolution for auditing purposes. So I can amend the resolution to basically say that council directs staff to report back to the fund of 141.
MCA.
Mr. Mayor, my preference would be for auditing purposes, we indicate where it's being funded from today. And then to your point, if there's a need, if there's a surplus later on, we can make a note of this and top up the roads reserve. I'm nervous that 6 months from now, we're going to remember this discussion today. So my preference would be we fund it from the road reserve.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't see you.
Through the chair, it is normal procedure that if a capital project is budgeted for, and if it either comes in or goes over budget and it is deemed in the budget coming from a specific reserve, that it stays with that reserve, whether it's over or under.
Okay, so I'll read it. Moved by Councillor McKelvey, seconded by Councillor Sisson, that council receives report 2507, Public Works Roads, Road Resurfacing Contract Award as information, and that council directs staff to award this work to Miller Paving Limited for a total of $1,651,103.25. And further, that council directs staff to fund the $41,944.25 shortfall from the roads capital reserve.
All those in favor? As carried. Thank you. Community services.
Good morning, Mayor and councilors. So before you today is a report of ice resurfacer for SG Nesbitt Memorial Arena. Unfortunately, the Olympia ice resurfacer that was purchased in 2016 during internal routine maintenance in April had some issues with the wheel assembly and was picked up from Olympia for further diagnostics, which came back with a quote of over $25,000 for repair. We did in the 2024 budget recommend for replacement of the ice resurfacer, but council did direct for a diagnosis to be completed in the May 2024. That was completed by Olympia, and they did not project immediate replacement or major component needed for the 2025 budget. So that's why it was not brought forth in the 2025 budget. With the extent of the repairs, we did move to getting quotes from Olympia and Zamboni, also going through the canoe procurement group through the local authority services that Zamboni's part of to see if there were for the further discounting. We did also talk extensively with Olympia and Zamboni about the electric options for ice resurfacers. Both of them came back that the electric is still lagging in the power and the efficiency to keep and to maintain. And when they go down with the electrical components, not always easily to diagnose what's going on. So that puts the machine out for a longer period of time. It also has to do with the weight of the electrical machines. They're about 3,500 more pounds heavier with water than your traditional propane. So going through with Olympia and with Zamboni have broken down the comparisons of the machines. So looking at very comparable machines. You will see with Olympia, we don't have any additional charges for any loaners, whereas Zamboni, we do, there is a charge. We do get a 50% discount on the loaner. But that becomes substantial because the turnaround for a Zamboni is almost a year, whereas Olympia can complete in a 3-month period. So the staff's recommendation is to take the Township Olympia and to have it traded into Olympia, where we'll receive a 20,000 trade-in value, and purchasing the Olympia 2025 Millennium H in the amount of 100,452 plus HST, which would be coming through the arena equipment reserves. And at the end of 2024, the equipment reserve was at 503,444,000.
Questions? Councilor McKelvey?
We don't have to do the $25,000 worth of repairs.
No, so it would, yeah, so they will trade it, they're trading in and they'll give us 20,000 as it is.
Thank you.
Councilor Ingram?
Through the chair, just curious, how much are the blades? The Olympia, when we buy one, you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, like, so the blades that we have now, like we,
Dollars each, you know, or something like that. I'm just it's a
you,
savings.
with the, yeah, well, the Olympia, you get new blades, and I would recommend at this point that the blades come with the purchase of it, and we'll be keeping our other blades as well. So we'll have a multitude of them. So right now, we've just been, we sharpen them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor McKelvey?
The mileage charge, is this just for delivering it, or is this for them coming, like, is this a long-term mileage charge when they come pick it up? Because like there's there's a substantial difference in the mileage charge from Zamboni and Olympia.
Yes, some has to do with location. Zamboni did say they were reevaluating. That was their price for mileage when I was discussing with them, but they were reevaluating their amount that time. But that is when they come and pick up the machine. So that either one of them in the 2-year warranty period, you're just paying the mileage of the technician to come out.
Any other questions? Let's read the resolution.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Shell, seconded by Councillor McKelvey, that council receive report 2509, Community Services Department ICE resurfacer for information. And further that council waives the regular procurement policy procedure. And further that council approves trading in the current unit and the purchase of an Olympia 2025 Millennium H ICE resurfacer in the amount of $100,452 plus HST to be funded from the Arena Equipment Reserves.
All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We need a resolution to go to close.
Moved by Councillor McKelvey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shell. Be it resolved that council proceed into closed session at 11:31 a.m. for the purpose of discussing the following. One item pursuant to section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended regarding labor relations or employee negotiations, wages and benefits. And one item pursuant to section 239(2)F of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, legal opinion.
All those in favor? That is carried. Go directly into closed as soon as we can get things organized here. We will be returning for a couple of items and then the just bylaws and so on. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Madam Clerk, please read the resolution to resume open session.
Moved by Counselor Saney, seconded by Counselor Johansson, that be it resolved that closed session adjourn at 12:19 PM and open session resume.
All those in favor? That is carried. I have a report from closed session. We have the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Saney, seconded by Counselor Johansson, be it resolved that the direction given in closed session be approved.
All those in favor? That is carried. Departmental reports, finance. This was a discussion we just held. Could you read the resolution?
Moved by Counselor Johansson, seconded by Counselor Sisson, that council approves the non-union salary schedule as amended effective January 1st, 2024, and that council approves the incremental percentage increases for 2025, 2026, and 2027, and further that bylaw 2414 as amended be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda for approval.
All those in favor? That is carried. Administration. Ms. Fitton, you're. Okay. That's fine.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So I have a report on a road toll request from this one here, from the Minden and District Lions Club for the Saturday, August 2nd, the long weekend. It has been circulated to the agencies. I've had responses back. The OPP is in support, but they just suggest traffic cones to denote lanes as vehicles approach. And everyone else is in support, no comments to date.
And this is within our number of tolls that we normally have in the area.
This is the first request.
Any questions? Please read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Saney, seconded by Counselor Ingram, that council receive report 2513 administration, Minden and District Lions Club road toll request as information, and that council approve the Minden and District Lion Club's request to hold their road toll event on Saturday, August 2nd, 2025 from 9 AM to 2 PM on the following locations: 63 Bob Cajun Road and 23 Water Street. And further that prior to the event, the Minden and District Lions Club is to provide the township with a certificate of insurance naming the corporation of the Township of Minden Hills as additional insured in the amount of $5 million.
All those in favor? That is carried. Strategic plan, yeah, you're done.
No. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. Before you use my report, for potential to move forward with the next phase after following our community engagement program, to develop a strategic plan for the township. If you recall, there was an allocation in the 2023 budget. In 2024, we had discussion and broke the project down into two phases, one being a community engagement. And then the second phase was to be the strategic plan. So Rising Collective, who was our consultant, led a very successful, multifaceted community engagement program that started late in 2024 and continued through January of 2025. Although very successful with more than 700 responses and inputs, we also noted that there was challenge in reaching some of our seasonal residents and those in outlying areas. I think mainly given the time of year and
that we were doing the engagement. So the intent, if council is supportive, is to launch the strategic planning portion, building on this community engagement foundation, launch it right away, and take advantage of the time of year over the summer to reach our seasonal residents and some in the outlying areas. The intent would be to deliver the plan to council in late fall. And for me, council, there's a lot of benefits to having the consultant continue with the work. They did lead a very successful program and have the skills to continue on. Feedback from staff, the community, and some council members was they thought it was a good process and they had a good experience. The consultants are familiar with this township and have made connections within the township. And I think they can get going as quickly as possible. So my recommendation, council, their proposal for the next phase falls well within the budget that's allocated, and my recommendation would be to award the next phase to a Rising Consult Collective. Thank you.
Questions? Councilor Ingram?
Chair, Cynthia, when we talked about this, there was quite a discussion about whether or not we wanted to do community involvement or have it part of the whole plan. My preference was to do the whole plan. Your suggestion was to do it the way we did it. At that time, you assured all council members that you would be tendering the remaining part of this project. And that is the only reason that I agreed to go the way you were going, so that we wouldn't be in a position to just hand it to the guy who already has a foot in the door. And that's what this looks like to me. That's how I feel about it. It should be tendered.
Comments, Councilor McKelvey?
I feel same way as Councillor Ingram does, as far as what we thought we were going to do and what we're now being proposed is totally different. I also would need to know, what are we doing? This is a council strategic plan now where we've already got the input. Is this still going to be a public process for everybody and their dog? We're not even being given any details. Normally we would decide what we want in a process. That's what I've been familiar with. The other concern I have is timing, where I can appreciate the seasonal, but I also know the county just launched theirs. And that's going to be confusing for people, that they'll think, okay, well, I already answered that survey because it's the county survey for their strategic plan. And I just think it's going to be confusing that we've got two going at the same time. So for all of those reasons, I want this council to decide what we're going to do for the next stage. And then we put it out to bid. And it has absolutely nothing as far as concerns with the Rising Collective. Nothing to do with that. That's my thoughts.
Comments? Questions? MCA?
Yeah, just if I may address a couple of concerns. So Council McKelvey, you did raise a good point, and I have had conversation with the county that if we were to both be out, they're at a different stage in their process than we are. And we have talked about making it very clear, or potentially even leveraging some joint efforts, if you will, where we could share information as well. I will have to go back in my notes, and I recall having quite a conversation about this. I don't remember, but perhaps I did say we would tender out. Yeah, and I mean, one of the reasons that we broke this down was if there was concern about the process previous, we weren't just awarding to somebody. So hmm. I guess for me, Mr. Mayor, we can certainly tender it out. I doubt that we're going to get a more favorable price, and it will add about 6 to 8 weeks to the project. So happy to take the direction.
Councilor McKelvey.
I don't want us tendering until we decide what we're tendering. Like, what are we getting? Do we want? Like, what are we asking for? Even if we went with these people, what were they going to give us? Like,
They're going to take all of the community feedback and they would do some more um, building on the themes that we heard in the first round, develop strategic priorities with council, with the community, to set a vision and a direction for the future of Minden Hills. And then from that, that's the overarching document. We can set work related back to those community and council priorities.
see, I've seen these strategic plans done that are just a council strategic plan, and we've already benefited from the whole public consultation, that we might not need to do more of that, that we can
And
set up a strategic plan with the help of someone in that process, but that it's council driving it.
Council will always have a huge influence and ultimately decide on adopting the strategic plan or not. I think that's a fundamental distinction though, council. Do you want it to be 7 people developing the strategic plan and the future vision for this community? Or do you want to involve the community? Do you want it to be broader than just this council's priorities? That's a fundamental distinction.
Councilor McKelvey.
Okay, well, I'm not trying to say that we don't utilize the consultation we've already used.
For sure.
Okay, I just want
For
to
sure.
misconstrue.
No,
my
but
words there.
through developing the strategic priorities, there's also further engagement with the community.
Yeah, I think that the mission at the beginning was to make sure that we had a community-driven view of the future and having the community help us set the goals for the future. We went through the first stage to get to some community input that enables us to go on to the next stage of development, which will include many more conversations with people in the community, whether it be business groups or recreational groups or whatever. If we try to do that just with council, it's not going to get done. We need some help and assistance here in getting it done. I was pleased with the work that was done by Rising Collective. I'm not sure what a tender will get us that will improve that. However, at the end of the day, it is normally our process that we tender, and I can understand why this proposal is being made, but I won't, I certainly won't object to it going out to tender. I hate the fact that it will add more time, and I'm not sure what it is that we're going to get. But that's we can go from there. But I think it's important that the next phase also have lots of involvement from the community. Councillor Saini.
Yes, I'm going to do a bit of brainstorming here. So bear with me, please. First of all, I really appreciate the work that the Rising Collective done and the information that we got. I thought was quite valuable and really showed a great input from our community. So now that we have that, how do we move forward? I like the idea of doing it quickly because we want to move forward before into council, and we don't have that much time on council before the next elections. And so these things have to move ahead quickly. On the other hand, if we don't engage and continue to have that engagement with the community as we go through this process, then we're going to be tripping over ourselves. I have to confess, I have not spent a whole lot of time other than what was on our agendas to go through and really kind of digest what the community was saying, because that digestion will include, how do we budget that? That digestion would include, what are our resources here in the community that do not have to be part of our budget? I know there's a lot of people with skills and resources in this community that over time are, if I might add, our bureaucracy has actually pushed them outside of working closely. And I say that being part of the Timber Sport Committee years ago, when we had the Kernahans and the apprentices all out there with their trucks, and I learned how to put up a big circus tent, and we had the community involved in those kinds of things. We've kind of lost that sense over the years. And I think with this community engagement program will help us do is start to re-engage some of those people who have those resources, who have those talents, who have those skills, so we can do things that are actually beyond our own little budget, if you will, and beyond our staff capabilities to manage even more on top of what they're already doing. So I'm trying to understand how we can put this together, how we can move forward today, but also in a way that's not, that includes all those elements. And I think if we just farm it out, if I may say that, to a Rising Collective to say, okay, come up with a strategic plan, that disengages in part some of the community participation that might be there. Having said that, I don't have the right mechanism to make that happen. I can think of town halls, I can think of, putting things up and, group over here say, hey, we can do this or that. But I think we need to have that sort of creativity happening somewhere that we can go beyond what our budgeting is and go back to kind of our roots to say, this is Minden, this is what we can do as a community, so people feel engaged in what we're going. Because if it's just another document, frankly, we've had planning before and they have been sit on the shelves. And we get a lot of feedback from the community over the years about our reports that have sit on the shelves. I don't care if it's even in writing. I just want to see people moving and doing things and getting it done. I don't have an answer, so thank you for, being patient with me in the brainstorming. I do think we need to move ahead with something, but and maybe we need a little bit more, another meeting to say, I need to review in more detail what the community said back from a Rising Collective, and that's my problem. Anyway, thank you for your indulgence.
Deputy Mayor Shell.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, a Rising Collective would not be developing our strategic plan. They would be facilitating us through a process to develop a strategic plan. And part of what they would see as very valuable is engagement with the community.
Listening to what everybody said, there's a good chance that a Rising Collective will be the only person who puts in a tender for this, but we do have a threshold for tendering, so maybe we should just follow that.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think the important thing is that whatever we get is that this is, we have somebody helping us put together a strategic plan where, they're not doing it. I've seen too many examples of where the consultants went out and then they handed you the strategic plan that had the name of some other community embedded in it. We don't want that. But I agree with Deputy Mayor Shell, and we if we're following our own rules, even if they're the only ones who bid on it, then we should follow our rules so that we're doing this clean and council can be accepting of it. Deputy Mayor. Sorry, Councillor McKelvey.
But when we put this out, we're going to include the community engagement process and information that we've already done so that whoever's looking at this.
That's public documents.
Yeah,
But
no,
don't let the,
no, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor McKelvey, yes, we would indicate that there has been a community engagement portion completed, and that is appended.
I just don't want them to have to start looking.
No.
No.
Yeah.
That would be part of the tender package.
Any other questions? So I think you have your direction.
So I would please. So basically, just hearing the discussion, I've amended the resolution to read that council directs staff to release a tender for the development of a strategic community priority project plan. And I took out the other line. Okay.
Okay.
So is Councillor Ingram and Councillor Saney amendable to that change? Okay. So moved by Councillor Ingram, seconded by Councillor Saney, that council receives report 2514 admin strategic community priority plan as information, and that council directs staff to release a tender for the development of a strategic community priority project plan.
All those in favor? That is carried. Bylaws?
Yes. Moved by Councillor McKelvey, seconded by Councillor Sisson. Be it resolved that the following bylaws be received, read a first time, considered read a second to third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed. Bylaw 2514, non-bargaining unit employees remuneration benefits as amended. Bylaw 2537, to appoint a bylaw and provincial offences officer and building inspector. Bylaw 2541, to appoint a bylaw and provincial offences officer. Bylaw 2543, to appoint a property standards committee. Bylaw 2553, to appoint a bylaw and provincial offences officer and deputy CBO.
Those in favor? It's carried. Confirming bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Sisson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shell, that bylaw 2544, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held during its meeting of May 8th, 2025, be received, read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed.
All those in favor? It's carried. Adjournment.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Shell, seconded by Councillor Sisson. Be it resolved that the May 8th, 2025 regular council meeting agenda is meeting is hereby adjourned at 12:42 p.m.
All those in favor? That is carried. There's a reminder that there's a special meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, May 13th at 9 a.m. This meeting is mostly going to include a series of planning department applications and reports. And our next regular council meeting is scheduled for Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Enjoy planting your flowers, everybody.